It was one of those mornings when the world seemed to pause, as if the trees themselves held their breath. Spring had finally pushed through the mountain frost, leaving patches of snow clinging to shaded hollows, while the air carried that damp, earthy perfume that signals life stirring underground. I stepped out onto my porch with my usual ritual, a steaming cup of coffee in one hand and no plans in the other, ready to greet another ordinary day. Instead, I froze. Before me, framed by pale dawn light and the tip of a pine branch, stood a lynx, her tawny fur outlined against the pale sky. Our eyes met, not with hostility or fear, but with a calm recognition that startled me more than any growl could. Little did I know, the next breath would bring life, and a plea I couldn't ignore. Her gaze didn't waver as she stepped forward in 2 careful strides, then lowered her head and gently placed a small, limp form on the wooden porch beneath my feet. Blood stained the cub's silver fur, and one delicate leg curled at an impossible angle. Time stretched thin as I watched the cub lie still, as though the world had knocked the breath from his chest. The mother lynx didn't retreat into the trees, but sat back, giving us space while never taking her eyes off mine. In that frozen moment, I should have drawn back, grabbed my rifle, or slammed the door behind me. Instead, I stayed rooted, sensing that this was no chance encounter, but a deliberate call for help. Coffee sloshed onto the porch boards, forgotten, as I crouched beside the cub. His fur was damp, matted with blood and dew, and his chest moved in the faintest flutter. Alive, but barely. Oh, what the hell, I whispered, breath catching in my throat. His mother remained still, ears forward, tail low, offering no growl or threat. I reached down, my hands trembling, and wrapped him in the flannel shirt tied around my waist. He floated weightless in my arms, a whisper of life against my chest. Backing into the cabin, I kept one eye on the mother lynx through the window. She stayed, a silent sentinel. In that instant, I knew there was no turning back. Inside, the cabin felt cavernous and too bright. I laid the cub on the couch, grabbed an old towel, and dusted off the dented space heater from under the sink. Blankets came next, wool from the hall closet, rough, but warm. I cleared a small table for supplies, all the while aware of the mother's presence beyond the glass. She sat as if carved from stone, watching every move. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, louder than any storm. Ree! This wasn't instinct or animal logic. It felt sacred, like something entirely new had arrived on my doorstep, and demanded to be honoured. My phone flashed a no service before I managed enough signal bars to dial Clara. We hadn't talked in months, but she'd spent a decade in wildlife. Rehab. Fup. On the third ring, her calm voice cut through my panic. "Hi, Mike. It's been years." I rattled off the details. How a mother lynx showed up this morning, how she'd placed her dying cub in my care. Clara's advice was steady. Heat is good. Don't feed him solids. Use a warm compress around the wound and stay calm. I repeated her words like a prayer, wrapping a towel around the kettle to make a sideline hot pack. All the while, through the window, the mother lynx waited, her gaze as intense as a promise. Fingers slick with warm glucose solution. I pried open the cub's jaw and slipped in a drop at a time. Nothing. I held my breath. Then, a flicker. His tongue twitched, a spark of the wild, flickering to life. Outside, the mother paced, her powerful muscles rippling beneath sleek fur, ears swiveling toward the cabin. Inside, I cleaned the wound behind his front leg, under the flashlight's beam, deep, raw, still seeping. I rinsed gently, patted him dry, and tucked him back among blankets close to the heater's glow. Rain tapped at the windows and thunder muttered beyond the trees. I sat, watching for any sign of surrender. After what felt like hours, a small breathy whine rose from his chest. The cub had chosen to keep fighting, and in that moment, so had I. By midnight, the storm's fury had settled to a soft drum against the roof. The cub lay curled in a plastic bin on the couch, chest rocking in steady rhythm. I half expected the mother to vanish, but there she was, low and still in the shadow of the porch light, eyes fixed on us. I slipped outside without a sound and whispered, "He's resting." She didn't shift or growl, just settled her head onto her paws, as if accepting my word. We spent hours side by side in silence, an unspoken pact forged in moonlight and waiting. With every inhale, hope grew a little stronger, like embers glowing beneath ash. Dawn came pale and urgent. The cub's breathing had steadied, but remained shallow, and I knew I couldn't do more alone. Dban. I wrapped him in the softest towel I could find, tucked him gently into a plastic bin lined with blankets, and placed it on the passenger seat of my truck. His eyes flickered open once when I brushed his ear, and he met my gaze. Golden, wary, alive. Alive. Outside, the mother had vanished into the pines, or so I thought. Her eyes might have been hidden among the trunks. The 40-minute drive to the clinic felt like crossing continents, each mile echoing with the cub's fragile life. Clara met me at the back door in jeans and a flannel, her eyes widening at the sight of the bin. You weren't kidding, she breathed. In moments, 2 veterinarians appeared, halos of fluorescent light and urgency. They unwrapped the cub, and the lead vet's face tightened. Not a fall, she murmured. Or beak marks, clean punctures from something with a big white jaw, likely a wolf. My stomach dropped. I watched as they flushed the wound with antiseptic, the cub flinching but not panicking, his wild heart still beating strong. They started for fluids, pain meds, antibiotics, and stitched where they could, packing deep tears with sterile gauze. He's lucky, one tech said. Stubborn, maybe. That's what's keeping him here. The narrow margin between life and loss had shifted, if only slightly, in our favour. When I carried the bin back to my truck, the cub's breaths were softer, more assured. Night. The ride home was quiet, save for the heater's hum and the occasional bump that made my chest tighten. Pulling into the driveway, I saw her again. Mother Lynx lying in the exact spot she'd held since morning, her gaze unwavering. She had not left, had not questioned my right to hold her cub. I stepped from the truck, bin in arms, and felt her eyes track every step. Every step. Inside, I moved carefully, low lights, a fresh bandage, a soft bed of blankets and heat. As night settled, the cub's breathing evened, and I realised I was not alone in this vigil. Word travelled fast. Pete rolled up in his mud-splattered Jeep and spat out warnings about a dangerous wildcat on my property. You planning on doing something? He asked, tobacco smoke hanging from his lips. I said nothing. I'd already begun. 2 days later, Morales arrived. Not to knock, but to warn. Say, a rhine. Our neighbours are calling it aggressive. State Wildlife gives you 3 days before they bring tranquilizer darts. She glanced toward the trees where the mother waited, half hidden in tall grass. So after that, they won't ask questions. My heart pounded at the ticking clock, but as I glanced back to the cub's gold eyes watching from his bin, I knew I couldn't back down. Over the next days, the cub grew stronger. He leaned into my hand as I changed his bandage, no longer flinching at touch. He swatted playfully at the edge of a rug, pounced on a pillow, and his ribs filled out with new strength. Each time I looked outside, the mother remained at her post, patient, unwavering. In her silent vigil, I saw reflected my own transformation. The boundary between wild and human had softened. I sat on the porch at night, listening to insects hum and pine needles whisper above, pondering how a single act of mercy could reshape 2 lives forever. At dawn on the 3rd day, I wrapped the cub in a thick towel and placed him in the bin once more. He squirmed, alert and eager to explore. Alert. I strapped the bin into the passenger seat, grabbed my coat, and drove to an old logging road where few ventured. We hiked beneath towering trees, the cub clinging to my jacket like a lifeline. An hour in, I found her standing in a shaft of morning light beneath a broken pine. I set the bin down and opened it. He stepped out, nose twitching, eyes bright. She emerged in 2 soft strides, nuzzled him, and his head bobbed forward to meet her. I watched, breath caught, expecting her to reclaim him and vanish. Instead, she paused and looked at me, steady, unafraid, then nudged the cub back toward my boot. Our silent exchange held more weight than words. Then, as quietly as she had come, she slipped away into the trees, leaving footprints in the soft earth and a space in my heart that would never quite be the same. 2 months have passed since that dawn reunion. The forest has shifted from spring's gentle green to summer's full chorus of leaves and birdsong. The kit is no longer so small. His paws are wide, his shoulders strong, his limp barely noticeable. He roams at the edge of my yard, darting into the trees to hunt, then returning at my call or whim, as though he straddles 2 worlds. He sleeps on the porch when the sun warms the boards, and when rain drums softly overhead, he burrows near the heater inside. He eats what I leave out, but still follows his instincts, pouncing at a stray mouse in the shed or pressing wet whiskers against the window to watch owls glide by. Neither fully tame nor fully wild, he and exist in that sliver between. Some nights, I wake certain I hear paws on pine needles, or a soft hum beyond the window. By the time I look, there is nothing but trees. But I know he hears it too. His ears prick forward, eyes bright, ready for whatever comes. Sometimes I think it's her, the mother checking in, making sure her choice still stands. Other nights, I wonder if it's just the wind playing tricks on memory. Either way, the silence between us has changed shape. There is no neat ending, no tidy morale. Only the truth born in a moment when a mother brought her broken cub to my door and left me with more than I bargained saw. In that space she vacated, something real took root. Neither fully wild nor fully human, and sometimes that's the only place anything worth saving can truly live.